Welcome to the Upshot, Ulti-World Disc Golf podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. I'm the editor, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me, Josh Mansfield, on this Wednesday, March 19th. Weird one going for us this week. Lewis got sick. He's got some horrible virus. I've been dealing with that all day. I know it's coming for me. You know how you know sometimes?
Yeah.
You're like, all right, well, I'm going to enjoy the next 36 hours before I'm crushed by this illness.
I saw a meme that's like, daycare's really expensive until you factor in the constant sick days that you have to take from daycare, and then daycare's really expensive.
It's so true. They don't give you, there's no discount back, you know. Oh, I didn't use it today.
They don't give you money back.
This is a nice time of year, though. First of all, the Texas swing is shorter this year, so that's a nice thing.
Yes, it is.
Second of all, we're coming up on Easter. It's a nice time. Got the Reese's eggs. Huge.
A little overrated.
Whoa. Are you saying it's overrated because it's an egg shape, or because you think Reese's is overrated?
I think Reese's are overrated. I don't love chocolate or like caramel or any, like, that's not my thing. So
every time we have a show, some crazy new fact comes out. You don't like chocolate, caramel, and those things. Like, what does that even mean? So you just
like the peanut butter filling? No, I like fruity candy, like an Airhead or sour gummy worms. Like, I could do those. Starburst are great. Yeah.
What's
absolutely.
your number one candy?
Airhead little sour bites. They're like little squares.
Are they soft, chewy, like an Airhead?
They're a little bit harder. They're harder than like a sour gummy worm, but they're still pretty soft. Yeah.
I don't think I've had that. It does sound kind of good.
They're pretty good. Yeah, and they're like rainbow.
Have you had Nerds clusters?
Those are good too. Yeah,
those are good.
Yeah, love Nerds clusters. So I like fruity candy. I don't like. I'm not a huge sweets guy, and like dessert, same thing. Yeah.
Crazy.
Sorry.
We did a thing driving back from some tournament sometime, candy bracket. So it's like, head to head, everybody in the car votes.
Yeah.
And I'm still mad. This was, by the way, a Dan Prentice special.
Okay. Tell you what, just give me the two candies.
On his drafted podcast, a candy bracket show, but I am still mad.
Give me the two. Don't tell me who won. Let me vote.
Okay.
Let me vote.
Okay. Regular Nerds.
Okay.
Versus Kit Kat.
Listen, I don't like chocolate that much, but I would still like Kit Kat is the one chocolate bar I will eat, and I would put Kit Kat over Nerds. Regular Nerds are so boring.
Thank God.
Yeah, and I don't like chocolate, and I still am not crazy.
Somehow, the car voted what I believe should be a semifinalist or a finalist in the bracket, Kit Kat, out from regular the little box Nerds. That's terrible candy.
It's not good candy.
The only one that was good was like the red and yellow like lemonade combo one, where you could like do both sides, different flavors.
Yeah, those were good.
I mean, when I was a little child, I liked that. Kit Kat for me is right at the top. I think I still say Snickers number one. Nope. But it's very different. Honestly, I don't eat Snickers very often. I eat Kit Kat on a regular basis because it's like a little bit of like more of like a little light treat, and you can share with other people.
Snickers does do a good job of advertising their hunger satiating qualities.
The Europeans are still going to be mad because we're still talking about things that they are like not involved with. But let me say this.
Okay.
When I was in Finland, I really, really enjoyed like chocolate covered black licorice balls. Those were super good. Now, they go too far for me with some of the licorice stuff. Okay. Saltalamaki or something like that. It's like the most bitter, super salty licorice you've ever had in your life. And that's like what people eat there. So I got a lollipop from some restaurant where was I? I don't know. Probably in Helsinki.
Okay.
And it's like, nice lollipop. And I like bite into the middle like it's a Tootsie Roll Pop or something. And it was like
this bitter,
pure salt and bitter.
Gross.
I was like, ah. But I kind of like the licorice thing they got going on. You got to find, there's like a spectrum, and I like more like low to moderate licorice flavors. So just trying to bring the Europeans in here, Josh.
Here, I'll bring in a European. I think, and I don't know about the rest of Europe, but France has Orangina, which I think you can still get some in the States occasionally.
You talking about the soda?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not candy, it's soda. We're pivoting. I love soda. I'm a soda fiend, man. Like I don't like candy all that much, but I love soda.
Orangina is very good. I've definitely had that many times.
Yeah, I think you can get it in the States. It's not as common, but it's everywhere in France, and that is so good.
It's very good.
They also have like Orangina candies as well that are pretty good in France.
Oh, I would try that. I never had that.
Gummies, good. Also very good.
Did not know Orangina was French, so I learned something new today.
I think it is.
I just looked it up on Wikipedia. You're totally right.
It is. Okay, all right.
It's
I'd say it's everywhere in France.
It's been around for like over 100 years.
For those who have not had Orangina, it's like an orange soda, but it tastes more like a carbonated orange juice than like an orange soda.
It's less sugary.
Yeah,
like
it's not like
Sunkist.
Fanta. Yeah, it's got like pulp in it.
Yeah.
Like actual orange juice. It's great. It's really good.
It's great. All right, should we talk about the topic of this podcast?
Yeah, I think Texas
soda versus candy. That's what we're.
Finnish fans wearing a Finnish flag with Texas hats and
I never got the story on those guys. I'm like telling Nate, like, but in commercial break, I'm like, you got to go interview these guys.
Go run these people down
because it was like big cowboy hats, big ass belt buckles, and then Finnish flags, and they were screaming in Finnish. So I'm like, are they Finns living in Texas? Did they come over here and like go to the boot supply store and load up? Like, I have no idea what was going on there.
I don't either, but it's incredible.
Waco.
Man.
Waco. So let's get into it. We're recording at night, so if it's feeling a little weird right now, that's what's going on. It's like we're 12-hour time shift of our normal recording time.
I'm a lot more awake than I usually am for our pod, so
I'm way more tired.
Tables are turned here.
So a few things first off the top. We did a full rapid reacts about Waco. Don't miss it. Get yourself a subscription. I'm going to plug it extra hard for the next couple weeks because the prices are going up on all Ultiworld subscriptions next month, April 15th. But if you sign up now, you can lock in a price, and as long as you stay subscribed, you keep your price. So it's a great time. If you're on the fence,
it's only going up for new members.
Correct.
Starting April 15th.
Correct. So, look, it's going from $4 a month to $5 a month. So it's not going to break the bank here, folks. But if you're waiting for a reason, this is your reason. And you can listen to the Waco Reacts, and you can listen to the Supreme Flight Reacts, and you can join us on Sunday live in the Discord, the best place to talk about disc golf on the internet. And we'll be doing a Reacts 4 Open at Austin. We will get to that in a little bit. We're only doing one show this week because Open at Austin starts on Thursday. So we're kind of jam-packing it in here tonight. So I just want to put all that out there. And you can also make your picks right alongside me and Josh. And the new picks, I'm loving the new picks, Josh.
Oh, it's great.
It's so much fun. I'm like scoreboard watching more.
Uh-huh.
I thought James Conrad was going to sneak into the top 10 and get me 5 points. And 11th. Brutal.
Yeah. It's so much more fun because like the value of picking those players is quite high. I mean, we talked about it, I think on the preview show, right? James Conrad getting a top 10 is the equivalent of Gannon Burr winning a tournament. Like those two picks get you the same amount of points. And that just makes it so much more interesting about how you want to go about it. On the website, we have lots of awesome stats as well. For example, Kristen was the most picked FPO player at 91 picks. Owen up next, 46, and then Silva and Ella tied at 27. On MPO, Paul Macbeth was the highest pick MPO player at 40 picks. Ezra
I like
at 38.
it. Back 2 wins here.
Yeah.
And is in form. He looked good last week or 2 weeks ago at Supreme Flight.
He didn't get any points, but
yeah,
you could have.
In a way, he probably should have.
Right.
Where, you think where things were, but like that's how tight the leaderboard was.
Exactly.
And we'll get to that. What we're going to do is we're going to focus on some questions that came up in our minds regarding Waco.
Yeah.
And we're going to let that kind of guide our recap. But just really quick off the top, Adam Hammes defeats Simon Lizotte by a stroke. Hammes had to go birdie on 17 and 18 in order to win, and he did it. He threw a tremendous upshot on 17 from kind of a sketchy spot with a low ceiling, and if he missed really at all high or low, he was going to be OB. And instead, he put it off the pin. He based it. And then he had to go birdie 18. He put it to about 40 feet and then drained the putt with the entire world watching. And so Simon, who was on the chase card, who thought maybe he was going to a playoff, ends up finishing in second. Meanwhile, Kristen Lätt, playing in her first tournament of the season, absolutely murked everybody. Shot, in fact, her highest ever event rating. So we'll get into that. So let's start with this.
I've got a question for you right off top, Charlie.
Okay, I'm ready.
Is Waco fluky?
I feel like I paid more attention to Waco this year than ever before. Partly that's because I was in the booth for DGN, but I also just feel like it was less crowded. There's less other Texas tournaments. And so with fewer other events going on, we can kind of just like lock in on Waco. Mm-hmm. And I found it not really fluky at all. I think it's just a course that is accessible to every pro in terms of it. You don't need major distance. Mm-hmm. You need to be able to throw precise shots, and you get punished for being a little bit off. But like if you can control discs in the woods, like you can play great here. And I don't care. You could be 40 years old. You can be 18 years old. You could have a massive arm. You could have one of the weakest arms on tour. You can succeed. Mm-hmm. And so does that make it fluky? I think it's honestly refreshing to have a technical birdie or die kind of course on tour.
And the conclusion that we've regularly come to every time Waco comes around is that these wins are earned, but they may not be reflective of the rest of the season. Right.
Of course.
And reading into this leaderboard is the biggest mistake that you could make. Now, we're still going to talk about the winners because these are winners who are not unfamiliar to the winner's circle, and so that might be worth discussing. But it is, while not fluky, also not necessarily representative.
It's wacky.
It's wacky. Wacky Waco.
Like, I do think that, this opens the door to players who basically have no chance at some other events. Mm-hmm. But you could say the same thing about a pure woods track in the East, where you see players who are wood specialists showing up in the top 10 or on podiums that have no hope of winning in the Midwest and like at OTB Open.
And that's true, but those players could win Lake Eureka, right? It's
sometimes.
Sometimes, some of them. Because some of those wood tracks do require big arms. And do require distance these days.
That's true.
Right? You can't tell me Northwood doesn't require distance.
No, you're right.
And so those wood specialists that are succeeding on tour today are, for the most part, guys who have distance to hang at least. And yeah, are they ever going to be favorites to win OTB? Maybe not. But could they hang at tracks like Lake Eureka, at Fox Run, at D-Glow? Yeah, I think some of them could.
I mean, I think there are holes at Waco where a big arm is actually an advantage and can get you an eagle. Like if you have an elite forehand, you can eagle 7.
Sure.
You maybe don't need that much distance to eagle that one. It's more about like the quality of your shot.
Shape. Yeah.
Right. And then of course 16, right? We saw Barella running for eagle on that. And like that's an eagle that almost nobody was going for. Mm-hmm. And he was a tree hit away from being parked. So it's not like there's no advantage. And of course 18, right? Like especially if it's headwind, the big throwers can still get over. And like that's a stroke in many cases. But it is a much more technical course and frankly has some very easy holes. Some very, very easy holes. Like
right.
Hole 2 was like, I mean, when it was windy, it's a completely different beast, no pun intended. You look at the difference between some of the shots required like on hole 2 and round 2 for MPO versus round 3 in MPO. Complete night and day. Like round 3, you could make a horrible mistake and still easily get a birdie. And then like round 2, everyone's like standing over their 150-foot upshot for like 30 seconds, like trying to figure out how to throw their approach.
Yeah. I want to go back to hole 16 really quick. There were 2 eagles on the weekend on hole 16. One of them went to Anthony Barella. Do you remember who the other one is?
That was like a dude I'd never heard of.
It's not a dude you never heard of, but it was probably a dude you'd never expect to be the one getting it.
Was it Corey Ellis?
It was Corey Ellis.
Yeah, I had it in the back of my head because I'd looked at this a couple times. There was a guy I'd never heard of who got an eagle, but it must not have been on 16.
Maybe on 7.
Maybe on 7.
Yeah. But yeah, Corey Ellis takes away another title from AB as the only guy to eagle 16. So, man, hole 16, AB and Corey Ellis. That's becoming a story, Charlie.
Yeah. I didn't even put that together.
There it is.
I didn't even put that together.
I'm sitting here, I'm like, come on, Charlie, come on. It's
Nighttime.
late for Charlie, guys.
Nighttime. Yeah, wow. Okay, let's get into some of the questions here.
Okay.
My question is just how good is Adam Hammes? So this was his 4th win, his 4th tour win. Mm-hmm. I think he has an NT and 3 DGPTs.
That sounds right.
And this puts him into, like basically the top 10 winners list among active touring pros. So, you have your like complete beasts like Macbeth and Wysocki who are all kind of in a league of their own.
Right.
And then you've got Eagle at 13 wins, tied with Gannon.
Okay.
Heimburg at 11, Simon at 9, Nico at 8. Nico's best days are behind him, but he did look great this weekend, and we'll talk more about him in a bit. And then you've got Dickerson at 5, and then Hammes at 4, along with Germ, AB, Isaac Robinson. So, like, I know they're not the same caliber in some ways, but Isaac Robinson and Adam Hammes have the same number of wins.
True.
But so how good is this guy? Like,
yeah,
it's not just like he's like, oh, like Adam Hammes had a great weekend once. He's not a Colton Montgomery or something like that. Like,
right.
He's much better than that.
He is. He absolutely is. Adam Hammes is, man, he's kind of his skill set and attitude is odd. It makes him very unique. He has one of, if not, he's got one of, I probably wouldn't say the best, but he does one of the best forehands on tour. I don't know if you can take anything away from Aaron Gossage. I mean, that guy just rips forehands like nobody's business. But Adam Hammes has a top 5 forehand on tour. Hole 7 is, I think, a great demonstration of that. He has he's 400, probably 450 plus of distance on his forehand. He has excellent control over it, and it's one that he looks just as comfortable with on the forehand as like guys like Germ and Sexton used to, but he also has a very, very strong backhand. And I think he has a variety in his shot shaping and backhand. Not going to be your top distance guys like AB, for example, but also isn't limited in his distance like Nicholas. He has all the distance he needs to compete on tour. That's a big advantage. Adam Hammes also and I'm pulling stats right now, but feels like an above average Circle 2 putter. If let's pull 2024. We don't have quite enough tournaments in this year to be using it quite yet, but last year, let's take a look. Circle 2 putting percentage, Adam Hammes, 31.9, 32%. So he's
30 is my cutoff for elite.
I agree. He's top 20 in Circle 1, and he is 85% rounded up on Circle 1X putting. That's 37th on tour. That's a little lower than you'd like it to be for elite, but it's solid, right? It's solid.
It's acceptable.
Yeah.
He's a better Circle 2 putter relative to his Circle 1 putting.
Agreed.
For sure.
Agreed. So he does a lot, and his scramble percentage is 50%, which is good for 10th on tour. That I think demonstrates is due in large part to his forehand. So he has a really well-rounded skill set, but isn't the top of anything.
Yeah.
He was
10th in scrambling last year.
Right. So maybe scrambling, but
I'm ready to give you where he's number 1.
Oh, okay. I think I know where you're about to give it. So I want to hear it because I want to offer you something that's a little bit wacky about what you're about to say. So go ahead.
So I think he has a case to be the number 1 clutch player on tour. And am I overreacting to this weekend? Maybe a little bit. Okay. The guy had to go through the trials and tribulations during that final round. He gets out to a great start. He goes cold through the woods and takes 5 pars in a row. And you think he's fallen apart. He's not going to, and that's after the eagle on 7, right? So he gets his amazing eagle on 7, brilliant shot, best of the day on the hole, and then immediately goes cold and manages to then bring himself back into the picture and then hit 2 of the clutchest shots you're going to see all year, back-to-back holes, 17 approach, pins it, goes across on 18, and has the stones to jam a putt where if he missed and it skipped off the top, OB, game over, you lose.
Yep.
And he says in the post-round interview, I told myself I'm either going to win or I'm going to lose. I'm paraphrasing. Like, basically, he knew that the shot on 17 was like, execute or you're done. And, we just watched Calvin have a similar spot. It was execute or you're done. He didn't execute. He was done. And Adam able to do that and then do it again on the putting green. And let me take you back, Josh, because when he won MVP Open, he was trailing by 4 strokes to eagle going into the final round and goes out of the gate and shoots 7 under in the front, like on the harder part of the course. Rips up into the position to win that tournament, goes on to win. Remember when he wins the Portland Open? What does he do? He jams a 66-footer after going OB to get a birdie to put the pressure on Gossage, who needed to make like a circle's edgy putt in order to win. Gossage, of course, missed the putt. And then Hammes wins the playoff. That is one of the clutchest shots we've seen in the last 4 years. And then he clutches up again this weekend. The dude is not afraid of the big spots. And, you could give me Macbeth, right, as like a super clutch guy. Not anymore.
Yep. I hear you. Here's what's so interesting about that take, though, and like that analysis. Because you're right, Charlie. You're absolutely right that he is clutch. I also have watched Adam Hammes blow up mentally and that he just absolutely falls apart because he gets rattled by something. Oh yeah. I remember distinctly one time he like misses 2 or 3 circle 1 putts. And he's a good putter. Like, he's missing them because he's frustrated. It's at the base of the basket. He walks up and he throws his putter into the basket and it pops out. Oh, yeah. And he has to drop and set it in, right?
He's got a little rage in him.
He does. And it gets to him and he loses. It pulls him out of tournaments.
He can lose his temper. Absolutely.
But I think it's also that intensity that contributes to the clutch factor that you're talking about. And guess what? If you take this clutch factor, does that mean he's pulled himself out of some tournaments that he might have been able to be a little bit more in contention? Sure. However, you think about a lot of guys that you kind of put in the Adam Hammes category that maybe Adam Hammes needs to be elevated out of. And I bet you a lot of them would take Adam Hammes's record over their own, because dude's got 10th most wins on tour.
Like, I got a crazy fact for you, and I was expecting to find something different when I looked this up just now.
Okay.
I was like, how many times has he been on the podium, right? How many times has he been close but not won?
Sure.
He has more wins than non-winning podiums. He was second at Waco in 2023. He was third at the 2021 Music City Open, and he was second at the Hall of Fame back in 2019. He lost to Kyle Klein in 2023, but Kyle had that amazing 1084 rated final round. I couldn't go back and tell you if it feels like Adam blew it, but I doubt it.
Yeah. If he's in contention, he closes.
He lost by a stroke to Mason Ford and Ricky, who went to a playoff at the Music City Open in 2021, but Hammes outshot them in the final round. So it's not like he blew a lead or something. And then he lost in a playoff to Heimburg in 2019. I have no recollection of that tournament.
I think that was what year? 2019.
2019. This was Hall of Fame.
First win?
That at the WR Jackson, right?
Yeah.
What did you just say?
Was that Heimburg's first win?
It might have been.
Yeah, that because I think I remember. I was not on the pod at the time, but I think I remember you guys talking like, "Oh yeah, like keep an eye out on these two young guns," right? Like
we probably did.
Calvin and Hammes. Yeah, that might be Calvin's first one.
There's no hole by hole scores. Maybe I can find them on UDisc. I'll look it up while you continue. But anyway, that's a long time ago at this point, right?
Right.
I'm saying right now we have seen Hammes clutch up when he's in contention to win. He has clutched.
Yeah.
In a big way.
He has. And like you said, I think that if you are comparing records, right, then I think a lot of people would prefer Adam Hammes's record over their own.
Hammes arguably blew it with Calvin.
Okay.
Calvin went 2 under on the last 3 holes of the final round, and then Hammes went even, and so that got them into a playoff. And then in the playoff, to be fair, they went 3 holes deep, but Calvin got the birdie on the 3rd playoff hole, and Hammes took a par.
Okay. That was Calvin's first Pro Tour or Elite Series win, or the same year as his first Elite Series win. His first win, that was, remember, the year that he won
Vegas?
the Las Vegas Challenge. Yes. So he won Vegas earlier, and then I think he bookended the season where he won the beginning and won the end.
That's right.
And so this was his first win, first year winning.
Yep.
But he'd already won Vegas at that point.
Yep.
But
speaking of
Calvin's breakout year.
Speaking of Calvin.
Is
Calvin anti-clutch, Josh?
Is he the opposite of Adam Hammes?
This was tough. He had a 2-shot lead going into the final round. And, he was not on his A game, but his putting stayed strong. He had missed some putts, but he also was jamming some key putts, circle 2. And he kept rising back to the lead. Like he would at one point Macbeth took the outright lead, and then Calvin was back tied, and he's right there at the end. And 17, he goes forehand off the tee, obviously a bad tee shot, and then kind of is throwing a Hail Mary up and over, trying to throw a sky forehand basically over the trees, and hits a tree into the OB, like done, good tournament over.
Right.
But it's not just this, Josh. Mm-hmm. We've seen it before a number of times in big spots when he's had the lead, when he hasn't had the lead. And so this is a stat that was dropped by Statmando during the broadcast. The last 6 times Calvin has been tied for the lead, or had the outright lead going into the final round of an Elite Series or a major, he has lost. His last win from the lead was 2023 Jonesboro.
Well, that stat, first off, that stat's crazy because it means that he comes in with the lead more often than a lot of players do.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
right?
Calvin, regardless of whether you find him clutch or not clutch, he's clearly one of the best 3 players on earth.
All right.
Gannon, Ricky, Calvin.
Yep. I was gonna say, Gannon, Ricky. I think, I don't know who I'd put above right now. But AB,
he's above AB for me.
Okay.
Week to week, better player.
Wins though.
I hear you.
But anyway, the other thing I'd like to add that I think is important. Remember the narrative that kind of surrounds Calvin is that he shoots really hot rounds, but only after he's out of contention. I think that could contribute to an anti-clutch narrative. The idea that the only time Calvin shoots the best, and honestly, I wish it'd be easier to pull how many times Calvin has shot the hot round in a final round of a tournament and not won. I bet that number is high. I bet that is a high number because he does it on the regular. And so you combine that with, even if he's got a lead, he's losing it. I think that an anti-clutch label is not incorrect per se.
I don't know that I have that much more to say about it. I mean, the stats are the stats. And I feel like mentally, I just remember these times, European Open, final round Worlds in Utah, these big spots where it's this is the one, especially at majors, where this is the one where Calvin's finally going to get this major. And he keeps not getting the major, right? So to me, that speaks to there's a mental block causing some issues for Calvin at majors specifically. And I think you're seeing a similar thing on display. Now, could it all be coincidence? And he just happens to play well in certain rounds. And, we've had some final round spots where he screws up. Maybe, but there's just not that many times in his career where you can really point to and say he was the clutch guy in this spot. He made these key shots. A lot of times when he wins, he's got some cushion. It's just not this kind of straight duel type situation.
Where there's smoke, there's fire. The one other thing I wanted to add, Charlie, and I mentioned this on the Rapid Reacts, but I think it bears it's worth noting here. What I don't want to have happen here is I don't want a bunch of emails from Calvin apologists who are oh, but he tried to go over and that was the best shot for him to win it. You're right. It was the best shot for him to win it. I want you to give Calvin a par on 17 though. Pretend he plays it just routine, misses a putt, or doesn't quite get to the corner, lays up, throws a second, gets par on 17. He still loses to Adam Hammes by 1 stroke. And he shoots the worst round of any player in the top 10 at a -8.
Yeah, if he shoots a 9, which was not a spectacular round on this day in these conditions, he's in the playoff.
Right.
And if he shoots a 10 or 11, he's winning.
But even if you give him 17, played normal, he's still the worst in the top 10. And so it wasn't just hole 17. And I don't fault him for trying to go over the top.
No,
I think that's the right play.
In that spot,
right.
You have no choice.
Absolutely.
He knows
go
that
for the
he's
win.
I got a birdie.
Yes. Or save par at that point, isn't it? Because 1 OB over the top pot. Yeah. So that's making par is his best.
Yeah, I guess it would have been
point.
par. Right. Because he took the OB stroke in the first place.
Don't fault him for that. I don't care about the triple. But that OB shot was a problem. But the fact is, a par wasn't good enough because Calvin had played a poor round up to that point.
Yep. What's your next question?
Yeah, we're pivoting divisions. I know it wasn't exciting. I know it wasn't fun. Does the rest of FPO have a chance against Kristen Lott?
Hi. Here's why I'm concerned for the field. It's not even that Kristen shot the highest event rating of her career, which she did, 10-16. Her previous best was 10-13, which she did twice. It's that she looked extremely sharp. And frankly, the only thing that looked off was her circle one putting in rounds 1 and 2, where she missed like kind of a lot of putts. And if she hadn't missed a lot of putts, she probably would have set a course record. And they just like, she is unable to be rattled in the same way that it feels like other players in FPO get rattled by her. You know, you can look at the final round and say, oh, the Henna's putting, or Holland's upshots, or, you know, whatever. It ultimately didn't matter. Kristen destroyed everybody.
Right.
And I think the concern is that she looks really sharp at this time of year, way sharper than she's looked the last 2 years. Forehand was on lock. Backhand, mostly good. A little squirrely in the woods in round 3. But you know, when she got out of position, she still just dimed up these approach shots with the forehand. Like the one on 10 was incredible. I mean, one of the best shots of the weekend, and it didn't seal the tournament, but it made clear that she wasn't going to be leaving the door open very wide. And, you know, there's plenty of opportunities for other players to really step up and, you know, Henna to hit putts, Holland to, you know, clean it up off the tee and in the fairways. But you're asking for perfection, which is not realistic.
Well, let me give you a stat that I think is going to make you pale a little bit here, Charlie. If you give Henna Kristen circle one putting this weekend, 73%,
okay,
still loses by a stroke.
Wow.
So
that's crazy.
You know, and yeah, Henna still had the most strokes gained tee to green. And so, you know, I don't know exactly what, you know, if you pull all the stats and mess around with it, maybe it was circle 2 as well, right? Henna went 0 for 11 from circle 2. Kristen only did 3 from 16, which isn't a ton. But yeah, you can give Henna Kristen's circle 1 putting, which I think if you said to anybody, hey, what do you think of Henna Blomroos with Kristen Tatar's circle 1 putting, or Kristen Latt's? Dang, I've been really trying to focus on not messing that up. Kristen Latt's circle 1 putting, guess what? Anyone would say, oh, well, that would be the best player in the division. Nope. Not enough.
Yeah.
Kristen is too good in every facet of the game.
She'd just be like that. Look, she's not going to win every tournament.
No.
She's going to have off weeks. She may have a stretch where she doesn't play that great.
Yep.
But I'm already on record saying that as a kind of an overreaction / hot take that she's going to win all the majors again this year. And I don't think it's crazy. She's setting a high bar, and others are going to have to really, really step up if they want to win.
Yep.
Josh, just to jump back over to MPO real quick.
Okay.
Been a lot of chatter about Adam Hammis's OB ruling of his card, giving him the safe across the water on 18 in round 2. Mm-hmm. Disc was on the line. From the broadcast angle, it definitely looked like it was on the OB side of the line. There may have been some blades of grass here and there that were not fully painted. It's like kind of like, there's like this murky thing going on. Also, Simon took a penalty stroke for misplaying his lie. He thought he went out of bounds. He did not, in fact, go out of bounds. I actually checked with Simon because there had been a rumor that he was told by the spotter wrong.
Okay.
That he'd gone OB. And so then he played from, you know, where he thought he went out of bounds. Then they get up to the green and it's like, oh no, I'm actually safe. Penalty stroke. So first of all, under the new rules, that is not possible because if a spotter tells you the wrong thing and you listen to the spotter, it's an automatic provisional even if you don't call it.
Oh,
that's
okay.
now in the PDGA rules. Now, there may be some technicalities about like what a rules official is or like what a spotter, you know, it can't just be a random guy. It's got to be an officially designated spotter, but of course. But Simon said that's not what happened. Simon just was certain that he'd gone out of bounds. He said that apparently there was even a green flag and he just didn't even acknowledge it. So he says his blame is all on him. So it's like definitely his mistake not to call it provisional. He just was like positive he'd gone out of bounds.
Okay.
But ultimately, right, that penalty stroke plus this OB stroke from Hammis, maybe it changes things. What's your take?
Yeah. Great to hear. Great to hear with Simon that was the case. Always glad to hear when things are going well with the spotters, right? And that I think is an indicator, and props to whoever that spotter was. We have an email here from Greg, who had a VIP pass at Waco. And he says that the subject line, I remembered this because I was like, we need to have this. A few considerations before you talk about the Adam Hammes inbound controversy this week. All right, Greg, I'm all ears. So he had a VIP pass. He watched this shot in round 2 in person. He wanted to give some context. Here's the TLDR. Number 1 is that Hammes did not seem to be pushing for anything. He describes how Hammes got the green flag pretty quickly from the spotter.
Very strange. Spotter should... I don't know why
given
it was
quickly.
Snap green flag there. It clearly from the T camera was going to be close.
Right. So little odd, but he calls Calvin over. This is all according to Greg. Calls Calvin over. Calvin's looking at it. Card follows. He said the body language was not indicative to him that it was super aggressive. So, okay, great. The second point is that he's seen online and some people, he kept score for one of the FPO cards and was kind of looking at it. He says apparently the grass was super long right at the water's edge, and it was pretty difficult to tell because it was painted lines where the line actually stopped and started, and that something like string or shortly cut grass would have been a lot better. And so there had been a couple, including the card that Greg scored on, that it was pretty unclear at times where this disc was it in bounds,
sure,
and where it had hit. And so that makes sense. And so those are the two big things that Greg offers here.
Greg's point, by the way, was that they intentionally left it long because it stops discs from going out of bounds.
Right.
And then if they'd mowed it and made it a super fast, clean cut green, that we would have seen more layups. And that's possible.
Possible, yeah. And he points out as well that like the 18 inches between the water and the OB line was marshy and bad and would have been very difficult to tell or play from. And so he's glad that there was an OB line. Listen, I can understand why, because Simon loses by a stroke and Adam wins by a stroke, and Adam gets the benefit on one call that looks pretty bad in a picture, and Simon has a weird misplay that costs him the penalty. I can see how all of that contributes to a narrative that could get people pretty upset pretty quick and pretty, frustrated. I don't think there's quite as much to it this time. And don't get me wrong, like we're the first ones to come after Umbrella Gate and to talk about Umbrella Gate, and the many, many things that spectators do and spotters do. Was it perfect? No. But I also don't think it was even at the same level as like the Hall and Hanley throw pink championship,
no.
Right? So
not at all.
I have a hard time getting over the top about this one.
Yeah, I think it's really hard without a direct overhead view of that disc to feel great about being able to call an angle on it one way or the other. Players looked right at it. And at that time, wasn't it Calvin versus Adam, basically, like right at the top of the leaderboard?
Basically.
I mean, Brian said on the broadcast, he's like, listen, it's one thing if it's your friend who's just like hooking you up with the call. Sure. But for the competitor that you are closest with, vying for a win, giving you the call, why? Who cares? And like, Brian is a former touring pro. Yeah. He's been in this spot. Has had those calls on his behalf. He's had to make those calls. That's good enough for me. Like, maybe it was OB. But the other thing is, you can't sit out here and tell me that like, oh, well, it was just this one thing that determined this tournament. No. There are so many holes and
a thing that happened in round 2.
Bad breaks and weird putts and lucky bounces and spotter saving Ezra Robinson. And you know, there's a million holes. It's all birdies out here.
Yeah.
So you cannot boil it down for me to this one thing. You just can't.
Let me ask you a question.
To me, it's just not. There's not enough here.
Yeah. For
any kind of certainty. I will admit, from the camera angle that we had, I thought it was out of bounds.
I thought it was too. Next question, Charlie. Did Ezra Robinson intentionally lay up after the spotter kept his disc at bounds?
He basically said not. In the interview following that, I was like texting Perk. I'm like, you have to ask, because Perk wasn't there to see this happen because he was on another card or he did another interview or something. Sure. I'm like telling him what happened. I'm like, you have to ask him, like, did he intentionally lay this up? Ultimately, he just sort of said it in his answer, which was that like he just made a terrible putt. I think there was some little devil angel situation going on, and it like caused him to put that thing in the ground. Was it like Gannon and Isaac? Like Gannon telling him to run it, and Isaac saying to do the right thing and put it in the dirt. And then after he put it in the dirt, Isaac like turned into a devil and was laughing. That's kind of what I'm expecting. Someone should animate that. I just think like it was like a karmic thing one way or another. Whether he did it on purpose or it like the universe did it to him, the stroke was not free. Last one for you, Josh, quick. Okay. All right. And then I have a little note before we go to break. Does Waco belong on tour? Some real haters out there, including some pros. I have long been a Waco skeptic. And the reason why is because Waco used to not be that original in terms of how, or that unique in terms of length, in terms of technicality, this park style golf. That's true. Right? Like that used to be what we played every single week. You think about like Blue Lake, you think about De La, you think about all the Charlotte courses. There were so many courses that were similar in length that challenged the same skill set, and we saw them week in and week out, and Waco was the worst of all of them. It looked the worst, it was the least interesting, and it just was not. It was the worst of that style, and we used to have a lot of this. That's not on tour anymore. Waco stands alone as the only event among that list that really has managed to maintain its presence on tour. And as a result, every single year when another one of those courses falls and it becomes longer golf courses, and it becomes wood courses that are increasingly long, or 4-round tournaments that combine woods and park style, like this hybrid of both in an 18-hole course that is short and technical makes Waco stand alone. Is Waco ever going to be my favorite event? No. Waco is refreshing. If you're going to put 2 tournaments back to back, both in Texas, I think it's an excellent place to have it. Now, I also get mad when the Texas Swing is 4 events long. And then I think Waco's been punished for the overall bloatedness. I agree. Of this stretch. But you use Waco as kind of like here's a short technical. Let's then move to our Elite Plus in Austin. I like it. I like the spot on the tour. I think it serves a unique function now. And I will come around and saying, I think Waco belongs on tour. I'm right there with you. Got a fact for you. Okay. 10 players were within 4 strokes of the winning score set by Adam Hammes. That is a new record. Are you not entertained? Waco. Okay, next thing. I said on the Reacts, I don't want every tournament to be like this, where it's just like insane birdie eat or die fest. Yep. But it's fun when you get them once in a while. I want a meme of like Waco standing on top of the dead corpses of the rest of the Texas tournament with its hands up saying, "Are you not entertained?" Really quick, got to give these folks a shout out. Rebecca Cox sets a brand new course record. She goes 11 down in the final round, 1035 rated. It's a career high for her. She outshoots, I think, 2 or 3 different people who had a share of the course record in the past by 2 shots. Sick. That's so sick. Rebecca Cox, keep an eye. She could win a tournament this year. I think she might. She's got the upside. Exactly. She has the upside. And then Jake Mon ties Macbeth's course record, which at the time was an 18 under. It's now a 15 under. And I know mentally it feels like, oh, then it's not the same. But it is the same. It is the same.
It literally
this course is basically the same. They shot the same score. If you look at their scorecards, I think they swapped birdies on a hole. And I think Macbeth got an eagle and Mon got an extra birdie. Right.
Yeah, an eagle. Because they literally, all they did was just change par.
Correct.
Now, here's the other thing. I think the course might have been harder this year than it was back when Macbeth played it.
I am unsure. There are some holes with a tighter OB, but the rough is way less punishing than it used to be.
That's true. That's a good point. You
could like throw through the rough on 7.
That's true.
On that left side, it used to be
and that did not used to be the case.
So I don't know. I feel like it's fairly samey.
Okay.
Either way, it was sick. 1082 rated, career high for Mon.
Deserves all the credit. For
amazing. I feel like people are not going to remember this, and they'll always remember Macbeth's 18, and it's like fraudulent 18. The D-Glow 18, now we're talking.
That was crazy. The D-Glow 18.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
All right. When we come back, we've got our new hole spotlight segment. We've got Pursewatch. We'll run down our picks, and we'll get you ready for the Open at Austin. Don't go anywhere. The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. You want to take water when you're out on the course, but it's kind of annoying sometimes to carry around a water bottle. If you like to have a hydration pack, Pound's got a brand new idea just for you in the brand new Octothorpe's redesigned for 2025 and the Octohalls. Check this out from Levi Wisingham at Pound.
This new Hydro Pack Contour, we're super excited about it. This Hydro Pack is designed specifically for the lumbar section of the packs. It has 2 baffles that run vertically so that as it's draining, you still get a little bit of lumbar support, and it works perfectly in the new Octo.
Welcome back to the Upshot. Really quick, little note, Kristen Lätt is now number 2 in the money list all time in tournament earnings. She passed Katrina this weekend, and decent chance she's going to catch Paige this year and get to number 1.
How far behind Paige is she?
40, 50,000, something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, if you extrapolate what she did last year to this year, what they did relative to each other, she will get there.
If I had to put money on it, I'd be putting money on Kristen making it. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think so.
Especially because like she wins Pro Tour Championship, done.
Right. I mean,
like
you don't want to put too much weight in the first event that she plays, but man, she looked good.
Yeah,
she looked really dialed. All right, hole spotlight, brand new segment. We're going to take a look. Rather than just like do hole 18 every week, people didn't really love that. Some people loved it, some people hated it. All good. We're just going to take a quick look at some holes that we thought were interesting, notable, otherwise want to talk about. And I think it's pretty obvious for Waco, Josh. Mm-hmm. It's got to be hole 17 and 18. As a finishing pair, honestly, among the best 17-18 combo on tour. I put it up there with, US DGC at Winthrop. I don't even know. Like, it's hard to come up with 17-18 combos that are that good.
Yeah, it really does become tough. Because
Beast.
17 is not that good.
Beast East. 17. I'm talking about in Nokia.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought.
At European 17, Open. I know 16 is the hole everybody thinks about, but I really like 17. It's got that falling off cliff left with the OB right there. I think it's a really good hole.
It's a good hole, but it's not as like... It doesn't have just like the same... It doesn't bring the same awe-inspiring shots.
Fair.
Right? It doesn't. It doesn't.
You're right.
And it is technical.
16 to 18. Oh, very good.
I don't know if you top that from the Beast, but This 16-17 pair is pretty spectacular. You know, Charlie, one of the things that we always talk about when we talk about holes, you know, how good holes are, it's about scoring separation. And boy, oh boy, do you have some of the best scoring separation of any holes on tour out of these two. MPO, hole 17, 37% get birdies, 31% get pars, 31% get bogeys. What more could you ask for?
Yeah.
It's almost
and it averages
perfect.
Right at par. At par.
Perfect. It's like the golden ratio of holes.
18
Amazing.
goes 33 birdie, 38 par, 29 bogey.
A little bit more in the double bogey category on 18, as opposed to 5 to
People
8,
miss the
but
go in the drink a few times, miss the putt, and go in the
cross. Mm-hmm. And what's so interesting about them is how effective they are by wind. I mean, that makes it completely changes the way that people play these holes. I love those holes. And, you know, they aren't slouches in FPO either. Hole 17, 21% are getting birdie, 40% getting par, 38% getting bogey, 19% are taking double or worse. It is a little bit harder, 0.4 over par.
Yeah, but that's still really good splits
Still really good.
For FPO particularly.
Yep. Hole 18, 46% get birdie, 25% get par, 29% get bogey, 10% get double or worse. You know, I complained because there are less eagle opportunities, but that's still a really, really nice scoring
But
spread.
it's not just that they're like good scoring separation, which, like, you know, we're kind of in the weeds, like, oh, you know, but it's iconic shot making happening on these holes at the ends of rounds. Look at just from this weekend, right? You have Hammes getting with a forehand winner. The most iconic shot you can think of from the past is what? On 17.
The Nico, like,
that's
bounce.
Honestly, a great answer. I was going for Valerie Mondahano's approach shot when she won there, but you're not wrong.
That Nico, like, air bounce
like little
make was
runners, like low flat spinner, to basically lock up his win. Yeah, no, that's a great answer. That was on 17. Hammes' putt on 18. All these monster drives in the when the tailwind was like ripping left to right on round 2. These guys were throwing like massive like hyzers out to the right that were getting like swung back like 150 yards to land on the green. It was awesome.
So cool.
And then, you know, you've got people blowing up their whole tournament. Calvin blowing himself up on 17. Like,
don't forget Ella.
What more drama do you want? And they're beautiful holes. They're beautiful.
Yeah.
17 is one of the prettiest holes on tour.
The last thing that you have to add, it's also decision making.
Yeah.
And that's why there's those iconic moments. You get to pick Nico, the double lefty backhand birdie in round 3. Like, it's a decision. Boy, is that a decision to pull that out. And so the way you choose to play 17 in particular, decision. And it just contributes to 2 really spectacular holes. And they're spectatable.
It's true. The best spectator holes probably on the course. Like, if it were me, I would probably post up and watch on 17 or 18. I would watch cards come through.
Great spot to watch.
All right, Pursewatch. Let's do it. Josh, take us through it.
Yeah. Well, it's not the best news in the world. MPO payout $50,860, FPO $27,340 for a combined purse of $78,200. Field size of 160. This means that because remember, this is not only is it $4,000 less than Supreme Flight Open, this puts it almost $50 per person less because it had more players than Supreme Flight Open did and still came in a little bit under money. $9,000 the MPO winner payout, $6,000 FPO. Big drop off from last year, but last year was an Elite Plus event, which has increased added cash requirements and the whole shebang. So that drops from $103,000 to $78,000. A little bit more comparable though. 2023, $80,000 to $78,000. So still down about $2,000 from 2023. Effectively the same, but still disappointing to see the number in the red from there. Yeah,
but you kind of want effectively the same to be like up $500. You know,
exactly. That's exactly my point,
yeah.
Right? $500 below and $500 above are effectively the same thing, but one feels okay and one leaves a little bad taste in your mouth.
Yeah, but I mean, to compare straight to last year, which again I get it's not totally fair, but down 24%. So. I don't know how much the money the tour puts into those plus events.
I also, let me look, because the other thing, and this is why we actually started tracking the stat, because the big advantage that you have is with 4-round events in the 2 courses, so you can fit more people on it.
Sure.
And which bumps up your field size, right? So
I thought the crowds were very light on day 1, fine on day 2, and pretty damn good on day 3.
Yeah.
Like, that's just my subjective feeling based on, like, watching on camera.
Mm-hmm. Well, Charlie, do you want the bad news?
I do.
It's 160 players. It was the exact same last year.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like,
someone's juicing that
disc golf is not where it was. They are maybe not getting as much sponsorship money. There's like a lot of reasons. Like, maybe they're getting less money from the tour. There's a lot of ways that, like, it could contribute to being down marginally, right? Around $2,000 from 2 years ago. But get used to it. I think we're going to see a lot of this in Pursewatch. That's why we do it. All right. Picks rundown really quick. I scored 8 points this week. Josh scored 7.5 points this week. I did pretty good in FPO. We both had Kristen, of course. I got points from both Owen and Ella Hansen, who finished inside the top 10. But I got a minus points in MPO. I mean, big brain Luke Humphrey's pick that everybody made was not very big brain after all. He gives me a minus point. I was so close with James Conrad. Honestly, I stand by the pick. 11th place. He would have gotten me 5 points, which would have made me one of the better MPO picks this week. And then Kyle Klein also just doing nothing for me this time. So not ideal.
Silva finishes 1 stroke outside the top 10 to give me 2 points, which would have put me over the top.
Yeah, Josh goes 0-0-0 in MPO with Macbeth, Klein, and Robinson. But, like, you should have gotten points for Macbeth, right? You can't feel bad about that pick.
Yeah, no.
Just a crazy course.
Yeah. Charlie, if you'd chosen Craig Barsby like I told you to.
How about I choose Evan Smith, and I should choose him every week because I know this dude. I'm the only one who seems to know this dude is going to be good. Podium for Evan Smith this week, by the way.
Yeah, well, it would have been nice points. For reference, a third of people who made picks this week on MPO scored negative points.
Wow. Shout out to Matt JM24, who picked Kristen, Ella, and Cadence Burge. Great pick with Cadence Burge, a top 10 finish, netting him 5 points for that. He got the highest score in FPO picks this week, 12.75. And it was a tie in MPO between Matt and Disco Biscuit. They both got 11 points. The path for Matt was Evan Smith, Simon Lazat. Great couple of picks, but then a -1 for Joey Buckets. And Disco Biscuit got 6 for Simon and 5 for Greg Barsby. Nice picks.
Nice picks.
All right. Time to talk Open at Austin. We're not doing a separate show this week because of a lot of reasons. Mostly that it's a Thursday start. So let's break it down. It is swapped with Waco. It is the DGPT Plus event now in Texas. So this is our first Plus of the year. 200 points on the line for the winners. So they've kind of bumped it up in terms of valuation, these Plus events. We're going to have 2 rounds at Sprinkle Valley to open things up. That's where U.S. Women's was held last year. And then we'll have
Gannon won by 5 strokes.
Right. Her first major victory. And then we will have 2 rounds at Harvey Penick, where they've been holding Open at Austin the last 2 years. Remember, the first year, Harvey Penick, a pretty awful course, maybe the worst on tour. They did a lot to make it better last year. It's still going to be among the bottom on tour.
And maybe, but here's the one thing I will say about that, Charlie. I remember like 3 holes, distinct holes from the Open at Austin last year at Harvey Penick.
It's a good
bad
sign.
Courses. I don't always do that with bad courses.
It's true.
You ask me Music City, I couldn't tell you about a single hole at Music City, and it's been on tour for 4 years. Couldn't tell you a single one off the top of my head. I can tell you about some holes from Harvey Penick.
18, you're going up the hill through the trees, basket up on the left.
Nothing, man. All I remember is Macy Veladiaz crossing the water.
Yeah, that's actually probably the best hole.
That probably
There's
is.
a couple
That's
of
the only one I
nice
remember.
across the water, like island greeny type holes that are nice.
Yeah. So, but I remember a couple from Harvey Penick. The big, like the 450, 500 foot downhill shot that's tucked into the nest with the OB in the back that everyone throws like mids on. So cool to watch.
I think they feel a lot better about this course. They didn't make a lot of changes. They tweaked some locations for pins and tees and tightened up OB here and there.
Well,
it's a little bit longer for MPO, a little bit shorter for FPO. Same par.
Yeah.
Probably just tweaking for difficulty.
Right. Or adjusting a couple lines or whatever. Charlie, you know who's going to be real happy to hear that Harvey Penick's basically the same?
Who's that?
That's going to be Owen Scoggins, who shot a record, not her record, FPO record, 1029 event rating last year. Blew everybody out of the water.
It was crazy. She cooked.
So cool.
And she played good at Sprinkle Valley. She was 4th at U.S. Women's last year, 991 rated.
Not bad at all.
No, I mean, that's 1 point above her rating. But, like, I think Owen is going to be a locky pick this week.
Oh, has to be. Like, the way she played last year, you would be crazy not to take her.
And what else to know? Well, remember what happened in MPO last year, Josh, at Open at Austin?
I sure do. The Finnish cowboy himself.
The Finnish cow. Maybe that's why those guys had those hats.
maybe. Finnish cowboy Nicholas Antila hits a putt in the dark because they had all sorts of rain delay issues, and so they only played 15 holes, and he had to withstand a charge from Kyle Klein 3 cards back. And hits the huge putt with like all the lights that they were shining on the green so Nicholas could see the putt.
So sick.
It was so cool. Gets his first career Elite Series win playing in the dark. I mean, this was a memorable event last year, that's for sure. A lot of crazy things happened.
Yeah, Nicholas' first win. Pretty sweet. And, we get to see MPO play this new Sprinkle Valley course. Remember, this is the one that Mint Discs has built. There's a brewery right there. It's like a destination course. They got commercials for it and stuff. It seems really cool. Have seen a little bit of complaining. Aaron Gossage complaining again this week on the YouTube course practice round about it being a little bit of a too easy of a course. Basically saying, you know how FPO always complains about them taking MPO layouts and just kind of like slapping in some extra tee pads and calling it the FPO course? He's like, that's what they did for MPO for Sprinkle Valley. We'll see. I have no opinion at this time. I did look at the caddy book. That does look like what they did. Like, it's basically like they're playing the same hole, same fairway, same stuff, and then it's just like either the tee pad's a little further back or the basket's a little further back.
Or they changed par.
Right. So
par 4, now it's par 3.
We'll see. I think we may get Waco-y vibes from Sprinkle Valley. I think we're going to see shreddage.
I didn't love Sprinkle Valley last year.
Let's see how they've done updates.
Yeah. But it's going to be interesting. I think it's so funny. Like, it's so funny that and I'm sure there are going to be a lot of FPO disc golf fans who are going to feel very vindicated this weekend if there are complaints about Sprinkle Valley. Like, oh, you mean it's not sufficient just to slap some new numbers on a course
for real
and say it's the same thing? Like,
for real.
Man, I would feel vindicated if I was an FPO player who's tired of seeing that.
Yeah, it's 100% fair. And let's see. Yeah, that's what you need to know. Starts on Thursday. It's a plus event, so there's a press conference. So Wednesday presser. I know you're all going to set your calendars to watch that. But honestly, I'm making a joke. But honestly, it is better to have these press conferences less frequently. It makes them more useful and interesting when they happen.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Okay, time to get to our picks. So I made Josh go first last week. I will go first this week. I think there's a chance Josh and I are going to have the same picks in FPO. I'm going Kristen.
Yep.
Can't not. I'm going Own. maybe the most obvious pick of all time.
Yep.
Given her performance at both of these courses last year. And I'm going Missy for basically the same reason. Like, these are just players who are probably going to finish definitely in the top 10 and probably on the podium.
I went and checked Missy. I was like, how did Missy play at Open in Austin? Third. She won the other course. That's it for me. That was the only question mark I had, and that question mark was quickly erased.
Josh, then I'll keep going because that was so quick.
Just roll. You roll.
I'm going Calvin.
Okay.
He played great here last year, and I don't know. I feel like he's going to be super, super motivated to rinse Waco final round out of his mouth.
That's fair.
I'm going Andrew Marweed, who, by the way, was in 5th this past weekend at Waco and played great here last year, and is worth, I think he's a 2Xer.
He's a 2Xer.
I'm taking another 2Xer as well. Evan Smith. I'm taking my own advice.
Nice.
He played pretty good here. I think he was 11th last year, but that was with a clunker opening round, 64. Yeah. Then he shot 51, which was one of the best rounds of the weekend, and 54 was only 3 shots off the hot round on day 3. So I like that. I think he's got the technicality to play great in the woods. That's not a problem. And he was top 10 this week.
All great reasons. Man, Charlie, I was so excited. I was like, Andrew Marweed's going to be such a unique pick. And then here you got to go doing the same thing. I also have Andrew Marweed on my list. I think the kind of description that you were given of Aaron Gossage and the whole, it's short, it's technical. I was like, Andrew Marweed just did well with that. And he played well here last year. Oh yeah, this is great. I'm so unique. It's not. I think he might be a pretty common pick. It's fair. I also have Andrew Marweed, but I am going to diverge in my other two. Give me Gannon for his bounce back weekend to finally get back on the podium. No multiplier.
People are going to keep picking Gannon. He's going to keep letting you down.
No, I haven't.
We are one mid-tournament away from having to talk about Gannon.
That's fair.
He got a pass in today's show, but
he did.
He didn't play bad.
I'm not going to roast anybody for Waco.
No. But if he is a little sketchy again, we're going to have to talk about, we have a problem on our hands.
Fair. But I'm expecting a bounce back this weekend. Remember, 4-round Gannon was the best Gannon.
That's true. He dominated the plus events last year.
Dominated the plus categories. So thank you for going first because I was hoping you wouldn't remember that. So Gannon, I'm feeling real good about here. And then I'm running it back on Ezra Robinson again. It's kind of like my Evan Smith pick, right? I didn't pick him week 1.
You were early on Ezra. You were picking him before it was cool.
I was. And then I didn't pick him week 1. The week he wins, I didn't put him in because he didn't play well there last year. And then I put him in on Waco and shouldn't have. And anyway, all in all, Ezra was 12th here last year. Not bad. I think his game's leveled up as well, though. And, the combination of him playing and liking Waco, I think coming this week to reset, I do like his odds. I'm a little nervous on him for 4 rounds, but we also saw him do really well at Champions Cup, which was also 4 rounds last year. So I'm running it for Ezra, and I'm feeling good about the picks this week.
Yeah, it's fun. It's make sure you get yourself a subscription. Go to discgolf.ultiworld.com/subscribe. Get in for the rapid reacts. Join the Discord. Make your picks right alongside us. It's early enough that you can definitely still catch up.
Still got a chance.
Oh yeah.
Yes. It's not too late to be involved.
It is not too late, and subscription prices are going up next month. So lock in now while you can. That is going to do it for this week on the Upshot. We're going to do I don't know if we're going to do it this week or next. It depends on scheduling, but somebody requested in the Discord a subscriber bonus segment where I take you behind the scenes of commentating on a Pro Tour event. And so I will do that. Kind of like the whole thing,
Love it.
Prep, day of, what's going on, what is happening during the round. We'll discuss it all. So hope you'll join us for that. For Josh Mansfield, I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying so long. Enjoy Open at Austin, everybody. And we'll talk to you Sunday night in the Discord live for our Rapid Reacts.